Melanie Woodrow in Norfolk, and I understand there's some news, Melanie. I think you may be aware of it, coming from Eastern Virginia Medical School.
Yeah, right now we are at Nauticus. We're standing in front of some of those floodgates that will surely be closing as Hurricane Irene gets closer. You know, we've been getting a lot of questions into our newsroom and on our Facebook page from Norfolk residents wanting to understand the low-lying areas and who's affected by that mandatory evacuation. I spoke with city officials this morning, and here is what those city officials say. Forget the maps, forget the flood surge zones. Bottom line, if you live in an area that is flooded before, you are going to flood again this weekend. If you're not sure, if you're new to the area, don't get on your computer at this point. Knock on your neighbor's door. Ask that person. Now, here's something else to consider. Even if you don't live in a home or an area that is typically flooded here in Norfolk, you need to think about whether or not you are surrounded by homes and streets that do flood. You need to consider whether or not in an emergency, first responders would be able to get to you. So basically, even if you're not impacted by that mandatory evacuation, if let's say you're an older person or perhaps a pregnant woman, you might want to think about leaving the area and going and staying with family and friends so that, again, in an emergency, let's say a tree were to fall on your home, you would be able to be reached by first responders. Doesn't mean you have to go to Richmond, simply means maybe going someplace else within Norfolk where first responders could reach you. Something else to consider: where you're going to put your vehicle. Starting at 6 p.m. tonight, 4 city garages are opening up for free to the public. They are the MacArthur Center Garage, the Bush Street Garage, the Freemason Street Garage, and the York Street Garage. At 6 p.m. tonight, those gates are going to go up. You'll be able to pull your car in for free as long as you take your vehicle out by 6 a.m. on Monday morning. Finally, want to also mention Governor McDonnell and Representative Scott Ridgel are going to be touring the Norfolk EOC at 4:30 this afternoon. Photographer Andy Miller and myself will be there. We'll bring you the very latest coming up tonight on Wavy News 10 starting at 5. Reporting live in Norfolk, Melanie Woodrow, 10 on your side.
You know, Melanie, we can't help but notice you're very close to where you were a few days ago, covering a much different kind of story where a man fell into the water and lost his life. Probably can't stress enough, if folks want to come out and sightsee during the storm event, they need to be reminded that where you are, there's nothing to really block somebody who loses their footing, say in a gust of wind, you know, trying to look around during this storm. So hopefully folks will stay safe, and if, like you said, they decide to leave their neighborhood but maybe come to a hotel room in downtown Norfolk to be where first responders can get them, or be where there aren't trees that are going to fall on their house, that they don't get out there walking around sightseeing, because as we have seen very recently, where you are is a pretty dangerous area next to that water.
Yeah, terrific point, Carrie. And I want to mention, I don't think he would mind. I spoke with Bob Batcher this morning, Communications Office, City of Norfolk. He told me he lives in a home. He's been here for decades. His home doesn't flood. He said he and his wife won't be staying there, though, because they are surrounded by homes and streets that do flood. And again, you never know. You just want to be safe. So if you're in an area where first responders can't get to you, you really want to consider going someplace else.
Doesn't necessarily mean leaving town, maybe just higher ground away from trees and things like that.
Exactly.
All right, be careful yourself there, Melanie. We appreciate it. We're going to check back in with Melanie Woodrow.